Okay, so welcome everybody in the room and online. We're here with our academic visitor, Kaz Kagohashi, excuse me, Kaz, getting that out. So as many of you know, Kaz is here, been here for an extended sabbatical. So it's been great to have him here with on leave, on sabbatical leave from his home university, Nanzan, in Japan. He's been interacting a lot with Australian Landcare groups. That's the focus of his research. He's going to talk to us about autonomy, sustainability, and landcare. That's an issue of significant concern to many of us, including those in the landcare movement who are here with us. I guess it's also, a bit of a window into the bigger issue of the dynamics around community engagement and environment and sustainability. So Kaz, thanks very much for telling us about what you've been doing while you've been here.
Okay, thank you very much. Right. Hello everyone. I'm Kaz Kagohashi. I'm Kaz. Just call me Kaz. And it's been a pleasure to be involved in Fenner School as a visiting fellow and conducted research on landcare. Today, I'd like to share some insights from my experience and from my learning from the local landcare movement. And I'm gonna talk about 5 things, and it'll be well, you should be very familiar with landcare, but I'll talk about first what is landcare, its background, and I'll talk about I'm focusing on the local group's autonomy, and I'm developing a framework to evaluate the autonomy of local groups. So I'll introduce that on the second part, and we're gonna think about the financial capital challenge for landcare, and we'll review the recent trends, and we'll think about the importance of networks and facilitators on ground. So the reason I'm focusing on autonomy is that landcare has variety of basic values, but autonomy is the most basic condition for landcare. That's what I'm understanding, and it connects various values such as stewardship, care, subsidiarity, partnership, localism, self-sufficiency. All of these are the important aspects of landcare. But I'm focusing the autonomy because it is the most important thing to me and for the world, I think. And what is landcare? It is very, it may be difficult to define what landcare is, but at least it is very diverse activities, which started in 1986 in Victoria. And it is totally community-based resource and environmental management. And it first started as combating the salinity problem in the farmlands, and planting the trees, native trees, to recover the native vegetation to resolve the groundwater issues. And then it developed entirely to not just in Victoria, but to the all states and territories after that 1990s. And as you can see, well, the landcare is depending on it depends on the local context, and it now doing as a urban care or water management or nature reserve management, which is called bush care, and of course the traditional landcare approach is still applying to the agricultural farmlands. And I want to stress that landcare is not just planting trees. It is about community. And of course, it accelerates to plant trees on ground, but as you can see here, people are gathering and having common outcomes, common goals, and share knowledge across among the Landcare people and outsiders too, like me. Even as a foreigner and outsider of Landcare, people are willing to share their experience and knowledge with me. So that's very important aspect. It is not just natural vegetation recovery, but it is also recovering the connection with people and communities. And it's fun. It's really fun. And well, I just compared this activity with ones in Japan. And Japan, we have several environmental activities and management practices, but it is not so fun, I would say. Well, they are very serious and they're very motivated by the core ethics. So, but well, of course, I'm not saying that Landcare is not motivated by ethics. It is motivated by ethics, but it is totally fun. And maybe this is part of the Australian culture. And Landcare has always morning teas and barbecues after the working bees. So that's very important thing. In Japan, we don't have this kind of thing at all. So just we
until you get back.
Yeah, so that's important part. Yeah, so this is Landcare, and my background is ecological economics. So from the ecological economics viewpoint, how can this activity can look at? First, the Landcare activities always start with identifying critical natural capital. Critical natural capital is kind of non-substitutable. The definition is non-substitutable ecological assets that contributes to human well-being. So that's the important concept, I believe. And Krista's here, and she's a PhD student, and she's doing that research on the important research. So I appreciate that. And well, first, identification of critical natural capital and threats is the first stage. And well, for example, well, when you conserve biodiversity, the local habitats or local patch or native vegetation or remnant forests can be identified as critical natural capital. And then there is threats, for example, invasive species. So the local Landcare groups to form, they form Landcare groups, local people form Landcare groups to combat these threats and to conserve the critical natural capital. That's the important activity. And they deploy these capital assets to manage these risks. And for example, manufactured capital, natural capital, human capital. I'm sorry, this is a kind of the terms in ecological economics, but basically, for example, fencing is manufactured capital, and natural capital, native seeds or native seedlings, kind of that's natural capital, and human capital is labor force. So we combine these capital assets and trying to conserve critical natural capital. And the Landcare support networks and agencies support, including governments, support local on-ground activities. So this is the basic, very simplified stages of Landcare. And then these critical natural capital and critical, not capital assets will bring about well-being. So that's a very important thing. So this, my understanding, this is the overall picture of Landcare from the, of course, ecological economics point of view. And how can we combine with combine the autonomy aspect with this framework? So we need to follow how the financial capital will be converted into capital assets to bring about any outcomes. So first, financial capital. This is relevant and critical for on-ground activities, and financial capital will be converted to capital assets. But at the same time, knowledge is important because it determines the efficiency of the conversion rate of the financial capital to capital assets. And I would call here, this is managerial autonomy, because financial capital is a basic condition for local landcare groups, and they utilize knowledge to convert financial capital into capital assets effectively. And this is the part of autonomy, which I call managerial autonomy. And the other part of autonomy is what I call here functional autonomy. And this is important for landcare because the essence of the autonomy of local landcare groups is that they can utilize their resources at their own will. So that's quite important. So local groups can utilize or deploy these capital assets to bring about or to conserve critical natural capital. But in doing so, they need planning capacity, how to combine these capital assets to generate the most efficient outcome. And labor. Of course, landcare, we need labor to convert or to utilize these capital assets on ground. For example, when you do weeding, you need kind of sprays, chemicals, and human capital too. And this is in landcare, labor is voluntary labor. So this is based on free labor. So landcare is based on this, and this is also a functional autonomy, I call. So when we need to conceptualize autonomy into two parts, managerial autonomy and functional autonomy. And this is the basic framework of what I want to talk about today. And what happened if financial capital or knowledge or planning or labor will be decreased? That's the question here. It will affect to autonomy. But the first part, managerial autonomy, financial capital and knowledge will affect to managerial autonomy, while the planning capacities and labor, free labor or voluntary labor will affect to functional autonomy. And the challenge that we are facing now is, this is what just what I'm thinking, but when you look at the federal government grants, the total budget for landcare program seems the same. For example, in National Landcare Program Phase 1, NLP1, $1 billion, and Phase 2, $1.1 billion. And we are now in Natural Heritage Trust Program, and it'll be ended in 2028. And it is also 1.1 billion. So at first glance, this is not a problem at all. Landcare is supported by government. That's good. But when you look at landcare related budget, I picked up the landcare related budget here, and this is the related budget. And it says when the National Landcare Program Phase 1 played, there was a kind of $745.2 million. And next phase, $636.5 million. Sorry, I can't speak fluently, but I'm sorry about that. But when you divide by year, it drops minus 25.17%. And now we're in Natural Heritage Trust, and it also decreases in 7.4% more at this stage. So this is the condition what the local landcare groups are facing. And I'm gonna take a short look at the content of the grants. We will review two grants. The first is Smart Farms Small Grants in National Landcare Program Phase 2. And as you can see, there were 5 rounds in total. And these are average, median, max, minimum, and the number of projects granted, successfully granted. And you can see the round from round 1 through round 4, it is fairly the same, but in round 5, the average and median jumped up. So that's what happened in the Smart Farm Small Grants in the final round. And one more, Building Landcare Community Capacity program. This is directly relates to local landcare groups, and total budget was $39.51 million. But as you can see, when you look at the number of granted projects, it is very small. The size was very small. Round 1 was 10, 18, 5, 4, 17. And the average and median were fairly high. And when you look at these trends in our box plots, you can clearly see the trends that median from round 1, the average and median rose up, and the final stage was fairly dropped down as it was the final year. But these are the trends, and these are the numbers of the successful projects. So what I can see from here, first, federal government grants dropped for local landcare activities through phase 1, phase 2 to the current one. And the grants are getting more competitive, and larger scale landcare projects are preferred, as you can see. And small scale grants are available, but it is a short-term focus. Small scale grants, I mean this one, Smart Farm Small Grants. This is small grants, but it is conditioned to up to 2 years. So very short-term focus. So that is a restriction. So these are the characteristics of the grants and the challenges that local landcare groups are facing. And financial capital, of course, for local landcare group is limited. So that's the situation now. And of course, we have other challenges too. Australia is a developed country, and you are facing aging problems and depopulation, especially in rural areas. And maybe aging and depopulation problems are the same in Japan. And the last thing was the administration load, which is kind of local landcare groups have to report and make recruitment of new members and making newsletters to attract funds, whatever. So they need to more and more take time for administration work. So and this is kind of diagrams that how can these factors affects to knowledge, planning, and labor. So aging and population will affect knowledge, planning. Well, aging affects three factors, and the population affects negatively to labor. But administration load is kind of good and bad. It is not necessarily bad, because if you success in an administration to get grants, you can plan more diverse projects, and you may be able to get more volunteering people as a labor. But if there is too much administration load, local landcare groups cannot concentrate on the local activities. So that's the problem. So these are the other challenges. So what can we do? What can we think about the possibility to solve these problems? It may be hard to solve all of these problems, but I would like to point out the importance of landcare networks and facilitators, that they can support local landcare groups to get additional funds to increase financial capital, and they can organize workshops and exchange knowledge among the landcare groups, so that they can increase or augment the level of knowledge. And they can, landcare networks and facilitators can organize the regional projects, and they can come up with ideas, and they can advise local landcare people to how to deploy their own capital assets. So that'll affect planning. And the last thing, labor. The landcare networks can utilize or promote more number of volunteer people, so that if local groups is confronting limitation of labor, they can supplement or they can support the recruitment of new members or new volunteers. So this is the importance of networks and facilitators. And I'd like to share one successful landcare network. Of course, there are a lot of successful networks around Australia, but I'd like to focus just one network here. It is Basque Coast Landcare Network, and it is established in 2003, and they organize 10 landcare groups, and they're running diverse projects in the Basque Coast area. And they acquired the income from, well, we will see later, but in total, $2.21 million for 1 year. They earned income, and they ran 211 events and share knowledge in the Basque Coast Landcare networks. And they also planning programs. They have 11 core programs, and they utilize or allocate, or how can they adjust, maybe adjust is a better word, adjust the allocation of the capital assets between the regions. And the last thing, labor. They recruited 43,000 volunteers, and they invited young generations too, so that the local landcare groups may have confronted without the support of landcare network, that they cannot proceed with their projects. And nowadays they developed their own nursery, and this will affect the stability, financial stability of Basco's Landcare network. And I will take a glance at the Landcare, Basco's Landcare network budget income. And this is the trends of the overall income of the Basco's Landcare network. And the category is kind of the bottom one is government, from government, federal governments and state governments, and from CMA too. And partnerships includes the private companies and local councils. This is the pink one. The red one is network services. They provide the grants to local Landcare groups. And their own budget here, the gray one, is it includes the service fees that they could earn from from running nurseries and contracting services too for weeding. And you can see the trend, recent trends is upward. So they are quite successful in acquiring money, but it is just the opposite direction of the federal government. So what is the reason and what is the successful factors for them to earn such big amount of money? But I want to point out the importance of the service fees, so that they increase the percentage of the service fees so that they can have their own budget. And when you look back at in 2012 or 2013, they were dependent to the national and state government grants, but the percentage dropped here, and it is just 22.4%. And they increase the service fees and the partnerships too. So that's the I think that's their strategy to how to stabilize the financial capital in the changing environment. So I think that's a very important point of view from the network's point of view. Okay, so I shared several points about the autonomy, how to conceptualize autonomy and evaluate it, and reviewed the financial capital trends. And I would like to discuss the policy implications from this short seminar. The first thing is that local small-scale Landcare groups are confronting the lack of sufficient financial capital. That's the obvious thing. And more financial support for small-scale on-ground activities are required. So that's one thing for financial capital. And the second thing is succession of local knowledge matters. This really matters because local Landcare groups developed their activities and accumulated their local knowledge on ground. But as we may lose the knowledge, very important knowledge, if after first or second generation, they are champion farmers and they are champion Landcare people. But when we fail to inherit the knowledge from them, we will lose this knowledge, maybe forever. So we need to retain the knowledge, and we need to do a succession planning of local knowledge. That's the second thing. And third thing is I talked about the general tendency in Australia, aging and depopulation problems matters. But of course, it affects negatively to functional autonomy through the planning capacity and labor. And so there is a dilemma if local Landcare groups seek to augment their autonomy by just themselves, the intensity of their activities will inevitably decrease. So that's the dilemma here, because they may want to try to augment financial capital. They may want to retain or augment knowledge. They want to increase the planning capacity, and they may want to increase the number of volunteers. But it requires much amount of administration costs and work, administration work. So that will deprive them of the capacity to focus on local on-ground activities. So that's the dilemma. So who support this? So that, from my point of view, it is the networks and facilitators. And we looked at the managerial autonomy and functional autonomy. And first, managerial autonomy. If financial capital is limited, this is very, very likely to happen. If financial capital is limited, they need to increase the knowledge, increase the accessibility to knowledge, including the scientific knowledge and local knowledge too. And that is needed to mitigate the negative impacts of the decrease of financial capital. And in terms of functional autonomy, it is likely to lose labor in the future, near future. But if labor is limited, we need to compromise that effect by extending the planning capacity. That is the way of combining capital assets. That should be more flexible and innovative. So the way of combining capital assets, natural capital and manufactured capital, human capital, the combination of them is totally dependent on the local situation. But we need something, come up with an idea to make it more flexible. For example, maybe, well, this is just a thought. Different technologies such as AI detection of risk, or using drones, or utilizing remote sensing, or we may be able to use a GPS controlled tractors or something that will make the combination of the capital assets more flexible. And third thing, knowledge and new ideas are brought by mutual learning. So this is what happened in Australia, in Landcare in Australia. And mutual learning was critical to develop their ideas and sharing knowledge. And to maintain local Landcare groups' autonomy, more support for regional Landcare networks is essential, because they're concentrating on sharing knowledge and doing administration costs, burden that administration costs for the local Landcare groups. So I think more support for regional network is very essential. And as we saw in the Basque Coast Landcare network, diversifying the source of income is critical, important, because we saw the diversity of the source of income. They don't depend on single source of income. So we need to maybe think about how to diversify the source of income too. And last thing, I would like to say Landcare is not just a planting tree or nature restoration. It is creating a care-based society, I believe. So it contributed to augmenting the well-being, the level of well-being of local people. And it is creating local community, and it is reconnecting people with local nature. So that's quite important thing, observation for me. Okay, so that's all for my presentation today. Well, sorry about that. Well, first of all, thank you, Peter and Lisa, and Journal Club, Ming, and others all of, and then maybe they're online, maybe. But I really appreciate your generosity to get me included in your community, and I really enjoyed and
Eating cake.
eating. Yes, it was beautiful. Yes, but it was fun. So I pretty much appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Thank you for that, Lord. Well, I'd like to mention the two things. Thanks to my friends, thanks to my Landcare community, Landcare colleagues, to provide opportunity to learn for me, and my friends too in Australia. And I'm very happy. I enjoyed my sabbatical for 1.5 years, not just for researching, but for enriching my life with my wife, Saori. And I'd like to thank Saori that generously provided support for me, and she decided to quit her job and accompanied with me for 1.5 years. So I really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Kaz, thank you very much. And thanks to those of us here at the school. Your point there about Landcare, not just about nature restoration, but about a caring society. I think that's what we try to do here at the school. But also, as you're pointing out, with these many pictures, around the nation with Landcare groups. And so I think it's interesting juxtaposition, just reflecting briefly on your seminar, juxtaposition of, an economist's perspective on what's a social phenomenon. So I think we might come back to that point in a moment. There were three things I should have done at the start when I introduced you that I didn't do. One of them was to acknowledge Saori, so thanks for doing that, Saori. The second was to say, hey, this is a Fenner School seminar, welcome everybody. Forgot to do that bit, and I forgot to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country that we're meeting on and that people are joining from. So I do that as well, belatedly, to the Ngunnawal and the Ngambri people here in Canberra, but to others, traditional owners around the country as well. So having done that, now we can come to questions or comments, both from people in the room and people online. Anybody in the room want to begin? You can start online. Okay, Vicky, that box is yours.
Okay, first it's just a comment from Jack from WA Landcare Network. She says, fabulous, Kaz, really informative and well done. Thanks from all the WA Landcare Network. Then we have a question from Leo Perkins, who says, can you please go into more detail about the partnership funding sources beyond just things like councils?
Yes. I think this was the slide. Yes, the content of the partnerships is a private companies and local shires and local councils. And for example, Basco's local council has supported Basco's Landcare network for years, and companies to private corporations. For example, the energy companies, or I had a list of them, but I can't remember everything. But it is not just local local companies, but it is well-known national companies too. So the content of partnerships includes the private companies too. Yeah.
Leo adds to that. Do you know what percent councils to companies on an income revenue basis?
I have.
We can
But,
look it up, take it on notice.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will look it up later.
Okay.
Yeah, and get it back to you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Any other questions online?
One more question on
Online?
Yeah. From Alison Southwell from Holbrook Landcare Network. Do we know what proportion of the federal government funding that was presented in your graphs was actually awarded to Landcare organisations? so many applications are currently being managed by a range of other organisations, and they bring Landcare in as an afterthought or as a small subcontractor.
So do you mean the,
What proportion of the federal government funding, so I guess the dark part at the bottom, was actually awarded to Landcare organisations as opposed to other organisations that have Landcare in their grant application?
the government funds?
I think I was
Sorry.
interpreting that question more as there was one of your other graphs that had, can you go back a couple of slides?
Yeah.
I think I'm going, where was the NHT? Yeah, here, and perhaps the next one, yeah. Whoop.
Yep.
Okay. So I think if I understood the question correctly, so you pointed out that Landcare specific funding's been declining. I think the question is more, are there other Landcare things that are being funded in these other activities that aren't being undertaken by Landcare? Is that?
Right.
Yeah, not quite. No.
She hasn't said.
Sorry, I'm more. Well, to that point, there are other, of course, programs and at state level and other trust or something. But for example, we have New South Wales. There is program to support Landcare in New South Wales now, and I didn't include that here. And when the National Landcare Program Phase 2 and the Phase 1, this is just concentrating on the federal government grants. So it may change the landscape, how the money is directed to local Landcare groups. So I have to confirm that in detail, but at least federal government, when we talk about federal government grants, the tendency is the decrease in grants for local Landcare groups. So that's that.
And she adds, yes, it's this table, state government departments, universities, farming system groups, all apply for these.
Can we come then to questions in the room, Gareth? Yeah, you might want to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks, Kaz, and thanks to Fenner School for your continued leadership in this space. Gareth Johnson, Chair of Landcare New South Wales. Just following up on Alison's point, I attended a Climate Smart Agricultural Program meeting last week. There were 58 bodies other than Landcare competing for that funding. Now that's fine. Like we need everyone in society to be working towards this. But going back to your presentation of knowledge as capital, some of our Landcare groups have been doing this for over 30 years. And the erosion of that capital by having competing parties rather than partnerships is certainly leading to challenges for many groups. My question really is, how do we continue this work? Because we're seeing I guess a harsh economic valuation, impact valuation coming into program bidding. There's a lack of funding for on-ground projects, exactly what your research has shown. So my invitation is really to both Fenner and to yourself, Kaz, how do we continue this? Because impact measurement is going to be critical if we're going to be able to cut through the current economic thinking in Commonwealth and state governments. So how might we work together on this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gareth. Yes, that's very important point, I think. And I think people are trying to evaluate the economic impact or just impact on Landcare, of Landcare. But it's, well, for example, knowledge or community development is very difficult to quantify. So that's the I think we need to continue our work on how to quantify them, and we need to show the evidence how the Landcare are invested in people. So that's critical thing, I think. And I think, well, from my point of view, the other thing is the kind of when we need to focus on more social impact from Landcare, so that we can assess the show the connection between the involvement in Landcare and how it can could contribute it to well-being or productivity. Or I have a kind of hypothesis of the ikigai hypothesis, I call it. Ikigai is a concept in Japan that it's reason to live and live flourishing. And it is affirmed that on research that it contributes to augmenting the elder people's health and elder people's productivity. So that's I think that'll be good to focus another thing to focus on.
Can I add a Wiradjuri word similar to ikigai? So Yinyamara Wahangana is a word that I want you to take back with you, which means living well in a world worth living. So a similar principle from Wiradjuri teaching, but we'd like to welcome you back the next time you're here in Australia, and also continue with Fenner, Landcare New South Wales, and my colleagues in National Landcare, more than willing to open up our books and information and data to you to continue this. So thank you
very much.
Thank you. Other questions or comments in the room? One online. Okay.
Yep. Sorry.
That's all right. Libby Robin asks, how do you consider caring for country initiatives led by traditional owners? Can that be considered land care?
How can I consider the traditional owners in caring for program?
How do you consider caring for country initiatives that are led by the traditional owners? Would you consider that to be land care?
Okay, right. Yes. Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it is now developing, and we need to include traditional owners and indigenous people in land care. But my observation is that when I visited land care groups, traditional owners and indigenous people are not participating very much. So I think it is really important direction to include more traditional owners into land care framework. And now I understand the government is trying to, it's now launching the First Nations facilitators in the realm of the agriculture and land care sectors. So I hope that'll work too. Yep.
I guess just Gareth's use of language on country there maybe speaks to some of in Northern Australia under ranger programs would be called land care in a different way. And perhaps to pick up Libby's point, we perhaps should be thinking about what is it that the traditional owners would want from a partnership with Landcare, and how could we enable that? So thanks, Libby, for that question. Is there anything else online, Vicky? Okay. Well, we're pretty much at time, so maybe we'll just wrap up the formal part of discussion here. Can I say thanks very much to all those who join us around the country. I imagine that some of your pictures were in that large collection of pictures that Kaz showed of his and Sayori's travels over the last 18 months. So thanks for that partnership. Kaz plans to continue the affiliation. So Gareth, there's scope for further work and bring even more Japanese economists and social scientists to Australia to study us, which we welcome. And as we've begun to discuss in response to the questions, and as your seminar has shown, there are some really, I think, quite profound questions about what we value and how we assign our resources in support of those values. So thanks very much for exploring those, explaining them clearly to us, and we look forward to the ongoing dialogue that comes from that. So please join me in thanking Kaz and wishing him and Sayori a safe return to Japan at the end of the month.
I can't believe it's ending, but yeah, I will.
There we are.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks, and thanks, Vicky. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.